I'm Chef Jen, and welcome to my home again. And today we are going to be making paella with Chef Adam Brands, who's our owner and executive chef at Ultreia in Denver Union Station. If you haven't been there, get your butts on in there. It's delicious. And one of the things that we do that's really special at Ultreia, and we only really do this for either on Saturdays at the farmer's market or for people to take home, is paella. So it's not usually inside of our restaurants, so it's really special that Adam is making these really beautiful kits that you can take all the mise en place that we make for you and then make this at home. This can be a special occasion for Valentine's Day, birthday, or just because you love paella, like I do. So part of the kit, which is really cool, is we're gonna supply you with a paella pan, some of the bomba rice, which is very particular when you're making paella. Also this chorizo picante, which is a beautiful chorizo. And then of course all the other ingredients for paella we will also supply you with, depending on your party size. So if it's 4 to 6 people, which is a great serving for the pan right here, but if it's more, we also can do that too. So I'm gonna let Adam start making the paella and talk about it, and then I'm gonna talk about some other stuff in the middle. So thank you guys very much, and we'll have a recipe, and anything you like, just give us a shout.
All right, so we're gonna start with seasoning the chicken.
So this is chicken that, do you partially cook it at the restaurant?
That's correct.
Okay, so it has been partially cooked, and that's just so it'll cook perfectly for you in the paella. But it is super important to make sure we put some salt and a little bit of pepper on this, as you guys like, definitely. One of the differences between good and great, if you ask me, is just a little bit of salt, so very important. All right.
All right. So
and we have our pan. Now, the paella pan, do you suggest, like, so I have a large burner here, right? So we want maybe, do we want a bigger burner for a good amount of heat to cook?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
The bigger burner, the better.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. And these pans are specifically made to cook this rice down, but also get this beautiful crispy bottom, which is called the socrat. But I'm jumping the gun. Adam's gonna get there.
All right, so we're gonna start with a generous amount of olive oil, and this will be sent to you measured out. So just add all of it. And we're gonna go right into the pan, starting with the shrimp.
Okay, beautiful. So we've gotten the pan hot. So when you get the pan at home for the first time, I think you should season it a touch. So put it on your burner, wipe with a towel, a little bit of oil in the pan, let it get a little smoky, and then I like to put a little kosher salt in the pan, kind of absorb the oil with the salt. The salt's like a little scrubby, and we'll season the pan that way. We'll turn it off, and now the pan's ready to use. So I do like to season the pan a little bit first.
All right, so as soon as you hit the shrimp in the pan, give them a little bit of salt. Let that go until they're seared on one side for about 2 minutes.
Okay. And now we give you guys a general time of about 2 minutes, but we're basically trying to get a nice sear on one side, but not cook the shrimp all the way through. So like a medium rare for now, right?
That's right.
Because later on we'll put the shrimp back and they'll cook the rest of the way, and we don't want your shrimp to be overcooked and tough. So don't worry, you're not gonna eat medium rare shrimp. We just want you to have perfectly cooked shrimp at the end. All right. So the shrimp are starting to turn pink, and that's something they should look for at home, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
right
great.
on the edge, right about here. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. And you have a little container kind of ready. So as they're cooking the shrimp, you have a little container set aside that you can put the shrimp into when they're done. And of course, if you have a shrimp allergy at home, we can do something else. We could add a different ingredient. If you have a shrimp allergy, mussels are really delicious, or clams. But if you want no seafood, we're happy to do a paella with no seafood. So it doesn't have to be that you have shrimp, just so you know. We can make this paella really fit what you want at home too. And conversely, right, Adam, we do all seafood ones too,
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
Squid, with calamari, with clams, with mussels, like you said.
I love the squid and octopus. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Chester's here also, my dog. He loves paella, in case you didn't notice. Okay, and those look beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit of color on one side, you guys. But that's it. So super kind of simple. And then all the flavor, the nice thing about when Adam's cooking this, he's cooking everything in the same pan. And so all that flavor stays in that pan, and it really adds a beautiful layering of flavors to this dish. All right. Now simultaneously, Adam, I think one of the first things in the recipe says to put the stock on. So tell me what you've done over here with the stock.
So the stock comes prepared.
And what type of stock is it?
And it's a stock made of jamon iberico, a little bit of chicken, saffron, some white wine, and then just some standard aromatics. So it's a pretty traditional paella stock with the addition of the jamon iberico bone.
Okay, yeah. We after we shave all our jamon, we save those bones, we put them into our chicken stock, but that saffron is also really important. So because saffron is so hard for you guys to measure at home, but an important ingredient in this, we put it in the stock for you. So in case you're wondering, where's my saffron? You know, we already put it in there. All right. Okay, so now we remove that pan from the heat.
Just gonna let that come down in temperature just a little bit.
Okay, great. And the stock you put on to simmer, but then once the stock came up to a simmer, we turned it down. So it's hot. It's important you want your stock hot before we cook the rice.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and with the chicken, Chef, if you wanna slice the chorizo for me.
Excellent, absolutely. And so the chorizo you get, I think we should just slice it in what I call like a coin. So a nice little round disc. And are we using all this, Adam?
About, yeah, I'd say it's about.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll snack on some since it's one of my favorites. So this chorizo has already been fully cooked and cured. So it is a beautiful flavor in this dish, but you don't need to worry about, oh, is it undercooked or something like that. You don't need to worry about that in this case. And it's beautiful. So I have that all sliced up, and that's a nice size for it, you know? All right. Okay, so you have the chicken going in, and we're gonna get, you wanna get a little color on that chicken?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to brown it before we add the chorizo. The chorizo's gonna leach quite a bit of fat, which is really important to the paella overall. So we want to make sure before we add that we get a little bit of browning on as many sides of the chicken as you can possibly get.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome. All right, and then some of the other ingredients that we have as Adam's cooking that, he's gonna give you sliced garlic, and then the sofrito. And this sofrito, there's many different types of sofrito in Spain and Italy, all over. And this particular one is tomato, peppers, onion, and garlic, and a little paprika. And this has been kind of stewed down. And this takes us a while to make at the restaurant, so we give it to you. So it's a beautiful component in there. This is the sofrito. And this is the gigante beans, marinated gigante beans, very important in this dish. Diced red bell pepper, lemon zest, lemons, and parsley. So, and you'll also get measured out bomba rice. And this is a short grain rice, and it has less starch than some, but it's like a medium starch, you know, like as rices go. But very particular to have this type of rice in a paella, right?
That's correct. It's one of the very few known rices that'll hold 3 times its weight in liquid.
Wow, 3 times its weight in liquid. Okay, well that is important. I can drink 3 times my weight in wine. No, I can't drink 3 times my weight in wine. That is not true. Anyways, now besides paella, as this chicken's browning, if it has a second, I was going to tell them about the tapas. So if you're doing a dinner party and you want to do paella for some friends at home, we do offer tapas from the restaurant, and this is just a few of the options we have available. We have these beautiful smoked duck wings, and this comes with a little honey and shallot on them. We have crispy baby artichokes with a shishito sauce, a little charred lemon. Patatas bravas with the aioli. The jamon croquettes, which is one of our absolute bestseller, right?
Yes.
And then the crispy shishitos. And what's on these shishitos?
Adobo spice.
Adobo spice. All right. So, but besides this, we have the hams. If you want a plate of beautiful Spanish ham and Spanish cheeses with membrillo, we can make this a whole party that you guys can do at your home and really kind of take all the work out of it and just present it to your guests and, you know, hopefully look good and of course taste good. All right. So it looks like you're putting in the chorizo now.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to add the chorizo, give it a couple minutes, kind of let that fat come out. Again, it's really important to the final product.
Yes, fat is flavor. In case people at home, but when you like the best steak in the world, it's because it probably has a good amount of fat in it. So, and I love that chorizo. That smokiness that's inside that chorizo, I think, is also really important.
Correct. Yeah,
You know?
it's really going to come through in the final dish.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, it has a good porky quality to it. Now I know that Adam mentioned that the stock has pork in it, but again, if pork is something you don't eat and you'd like a paella with no pork, you can easily make a stock that's either vegetarian based or fish based with the paprika and saffron in it. So these are all things that are no problem for us. We just want to show you our version that we're doing right now. That's the most popular for people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can see right around the chicken here that this orange kind of reddish grease is coming out of the tree. So that's when you know you're ready for the next ingredient.
Awesome. Which is?
So we're going to go right into red bell pepper.
Okay.
Cool the pan down just a little bit.
Okay.
And some sliced garlic.
And so the red bell pepper, we just want to soften it a little.
Correct.
And the garlic, we want to just get a little color or really just let it bloom out a little. What are we trying to do?
Just bloom it.
Okay,
so you don't want it to get too dark. It's going to continue to cook.
That is important. I think at home, if the garlic gets dark, it'll get bitter. And that bitterness really translates to the rice and the stock. So I think that's something to be careful of. So at this point, you really want people to be on the pan and paying attention. Great. Okay. Awesome. And I love garlic. Okay, so next.
So from this point, we're going to go ahead and add our sofrito.
Okay.
And what this is going to do is it's going to kind of cool the pan down a little bit, which is a good time for that. You don't want anything to get too hot, get too burnt. So stir the sofrito in, cool it down, and all the kind of one homogeneous cook at that point.
And now, can you pick up that pan? How has our flame been underneath? It's been on kind of the low setting, but all around, or has it been a high?
That's low.
That's the low?
Yeah.
Okay, so not full bore on your flame at home. On my stove, it's on the lowest setting of the double burner, but I think that's important. And if they have a smaller burner, they still just use that medium-low setting?
Yeah, I'd say medium-low to medium.
Okay.
But it's pretty forgiving.
Okay.
At this stage, anyway.
Okay, great. So the sofrito has now, it's interesting because the sofrito has moisture in it. It's taken the bottom, all the flavors that have stuck to the bottom of the pan, it's picked all that up and brought it up into the pan. So we call that the fond.
Switch over to a spoon.
There we go.
At this point, I'm going to turn up just a little bit, just to get the pan hot again.
Okay.
And just like you said, just kind of evaporate some of that liquid.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to remove some of those things on floss real quick.
And feel free whenever you're cooking to shake the pan, move it around, flip sides. This is something you see quite a bit in paella cooking. Just to make sure that you're getting even cooked on all the ingredients whenever we have the rice and even cook on the rice itself.
Yeah.
So at this point it's on high. You just kind of want to watch your garlic, watch your edges. You can't go wrong stirring it at this point.
Yeah, the simmering looks beautiful, right?
Yeah, all this is going to caramelize down.
Right.
This is going to be your depth of flavor right here.
All right.
What you're
That's
doing.
fantastic. Fantastic.
All right, so we're pretty dry at this point. We're ready for our next step, which is going to be the rice.
All right. And the rice will be measured for you. And everything will be measured for you, of course. And it kind of looks like a lot. And you're saying, gosh, this looks like a lot in this pan, but just go with it. Okay. So you're spreading it out evenly throughout the pan.
Correct.
Okay.
And at this point, I'm going to be very careful
Okay.
to incorporate it into the rice, but you don't want to stir it too much. By stirring it too much, you're going to activate the starch, and the rice as a whole will get kind of gummy.
Okay. So very important. Gentle to incorporate the rice into that little bit of sofrito and the fats in there, but not to really move it a lot. It's not risotto. We do not want to activate starch. Okay. Great to know. It's a great little tip.
All right, from here, we're going to go ahead and deglaze with the measured amount of sherry. I'm going to eyeball it.
So this is a fino sherry, or manzanilla to be more particular, this sherry, and has beautiful flavor. I think a little nuttiness, a little caramel tones, but not sweet at all. This will give acid. You'll need some acid in this dish, and this is where that comes in. This is where it balances out the fat and the acid.
So at this point, more to the starch. If you want to stir this not with a spoon, and you want to use a fork, it's a lot more delicate. It's a lot easier on the rice.
Okay. Excellent. So
Right.
you glaze a little bit of that sherry. Now, am I correct at this point, we're going to start to not mess up at the bottom of the pan?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. At this point, we're going to kind of leave it alone. We're going to add the stock, and we're just going to kind of let it cook.
Okay, great.
So again, the stock is on a simmer.
And you're okay just to pour it in one, you pour it all around or one spot?
Yeah, you kind of want to just identify it. If the rice is sitting on top of the chorizo,
Okay.
like right here, you're gonna want to pour it, just kind of knock some of that rice down a little bit. We're
Okay.
gonna keep some of the stock on the side
Okay.
for that purpose, but basically,
Now, are you shaking it down at all?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you have a fork, you can use that. Just be careful not to like completely stir it.
So one thing that Adam was just doing, you guys will notice there's some rice kernels on top of these pieces of chorizo, and those won't cook, so he's just knocking them down into the pot. And that is just in case he's going fast on here, he's just literally knocking those down into the liquid, but not stirring it. That's too much action. You don't want to mess with the bottom of the pan. We really want this sauerkraut, which Adam will talk about later, the crunchy layer on the bottom to happen. This won't happen until the very end. But we need to make sure all those rice grains are in the liquid at least.
All right, so at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it down. You're looking for low to medium low for
Now-
about, sorry, Chef.
No, should it still be bubbling slightly?
Correct.
Okay.
You wanna make sure you maintain a simmer. It's gonna be very important.
Got it.
And we're
So-
gonna let this simmer for about 20 minutes.
Okay, great. So we'll add the majority of the stock, but you're gonna give them a little extra, right?
That's correct.
So hold back about how much of it?
It'll be about 8 ounces held back. This will be identified on the recipe itself.
Okay.
But yeah, hold back about 8 ounces just because every time you cook paella, it's a little bit different. So you're gonna wanna save some just in case the rice isn't fully cooked.
And that is important to note that, as much as we make recipes, the actual rice, each bag of rice you get isn't the same. Maybe it's dried out more. Maybe it was humid when it was being picked or packed. Maybe, they're supposed to store it in certain kinds of places, but the humidity and the moisture in the rice does change. So that's why we hold back that liquid and maybe add a little bit more, because we wouldn't want it to be mushy. So these things, we can get as precise as possible, but we still need that attention to detail
Correct.
and looking at that. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna have this at a nice simmer, but then it's gonna pretty much sit for about 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes.
Okay, and at this time, we don't really need to be doing anything else. Everything's done. We have the lemons, the parsley, the beans, everything's done, right?
Yeah, just kind of wait and cook. Pour yourself a glass of wine.
Okay. Okay, so our rice has been cooking for about 20 minutes. And as it was cooking, as you saw, we did do a few things. We added a little bit more liquid here and there. When we saw, the liquid come down a little bit, we added some liquid. We're smelling it the whole time too. So we're gonna try to give you these pans seasoned, but sometimes there's little hot spots that stick. So Adam, you could use a fork, but Adam was using his tweezers to kind of feel that we want it to stick, but we don't have to burn. So it's a kind of a fine, line between sticking and burning. And then every once in a while, there's just some rice that's just laying on top of these chorizos that maybe is not gonna ever cook enough. So we kind of just get rid of those couple little kernels of rice on there. And sometimes Adam and I, when we're making these small pans of paellas at home, if we feel like we're having an issue, sometimes we will put a little lid on it for a little bit and let that steam the top too. This lid is not quite big enough, pardon me, but we have some lids that are about right size. So that is another thing we sometimes do. So this looks good now. So we had to add more liquid. If for some reason, because maybe you're cooking it a little faster than we're cooking it, or maybe you're cooking it a little slower than we're cooking it. So all these things matter in how much liquid it will take. So if for some reason it needs more liquid, and you're gonna taste the rice kernels, you're gonna taste them. You want them like 90% cooked at this point. If it's not and you need more liquid, just add a little water. Like if you've gone through your stock for some reason, and again, you would go through your stock if it's cooking a little faster than we had, and that stock is evaporating faster. So that rate, is important, but But those are just things to look for, right?
That's correct, yeah. And paella is more of a technique than it is an actual recipe. So you want to make sure you're using all your senses, like Chef said. You want to be able to smell it, see if it's burning. You want to, if you're seeing that it's a little dry and you're out of stock, like she said, just add a little bit more water.
And in this case, we moved it on my stove to this burner because this burner was a little too fast and we wanted it to go a little slower. And Adam's also felt that it's cooking beautifully on this side and not enough on this side, so we kind of moved the pan that way. So all these things we're just kind of feeling. And again, if you don't have tweezers at home, a fork is a great tool to use at home to kind of feel the bottom.
That's right.
Yeah. And if in the very beginning, I'd like to say, if in the very beginning you're getting some sticking in 20 minutes ago in the beginning, you could actually stir that a bit, because that means maybe it's sticking to the pan before it should stick, But again, I think what Adam and I have talked about is we'll try to season these pans up for you so they're a little bit easier to use at home. And we'll give it to you all done with a seasoned pan.
Correct. So we're going to go back into it with the shrimp that we pre-seared.
Fantastic.
And the gigante beans. So at this point is when you can start arranging some of your ingredients like you would see.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, it'll be like a picture. It'll be so pretty. And that is nice for presentation when you're doing a party. You want to impress your friends or just impress somebody, your husband, your wife, nobody, your dog, maybe, yourself. The presentation is always key. So the cooked side that we seared on one side, that goes up. The side that we didn't cook, you're putting on the rice. So that is the important thing. That way the heat from the rice is going to steam up there and cook it the rest of the way. Beautiful, all the tails are going the same direction, it looks great.
Then we're going to go in with the gigante beans, and these are already cooked, they're marinated, you just got to make sure they're warm.
But one of the things I will say is you'll notice we have all the ingredients that they've been sitting out, so they've been kind of tempered. So those beans weren't in the refrigerator, they were outside. So they're not ice cold when you're putting on top of paella. I think that's really important. And the shrimp, we didn't put the shrimp back in the fridge, we just let them sit out so they're, nothing's too cold. Okay, that is important too. All right. So, is this a classic Paella Valencia?
So this is sort of our interpretation of a Paella Valencia. So traditionally Paella Valencia has rabbit, has snails. We kept some of those ingredients out. We found that a lot of our guests in sort of the American palate prefers shrimp and chorizo and chicken and things that are a little bit more approachable.
But if I wanted rabbit paella?
Of course.
Okay, we could order one. Okay, good. That's all I want to know. Is if I want a rabbit Paella Valencia, we can get it. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so now what are we looking for now? We put the shrimp and the beans on, and now we just need to cook the shrimp and finish cooking the rice?
That's correct. So what we're trying to do now is just finish steaming the shrimp, make sure that the beans are warm, and we're going to start establishing our socarrat. So I've had the pan on low, and I'm going to bring it up to medium low. And the socarrat are the little crispy bits on the bottom. That's kind of the prized piece of the paella. So if you listen close, you can kind of hear the snap, crackle, pop. That's really important that you're hearing that without smelling any burnt rice. And you can kind of see right here, we still have some steam coming off, but the smoke will change. You get a little bit darker. That's when you know you're burning it. So.
Okay, so that's a good thing. So it is really making that kind of snap, crackle, pop sound right now. So we know we're toasting that rice on the bottom. The color of the steam, like Adam just said, is really important. So when that turns dark, let's move it, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so some really good pointers. Okay.
And at this point, you can kind of move it around a little bit. Your shrimp, double check to make sure that they're cooked. You can kind of stand them up, play the presentation if you want. And it's been about 30 seconds of hearing those pops. So I'm going to give it like another 10-15 seconds, and then we're going to let it rest for 2 minutes.
Okay, so the snap, crackle, pop sound, you don't need to leave it on there too long, is what you're saying.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point, still you don't want to scorch it.
Okay.
It will burn on the bottom there. So I'm going to go ahead and...
Now, and you mentioned resting, so very important with the paella to let it rest. And what's happening when this is resting? Why is this so important?
So basically all of the juices in the shrimp themselves, all of the meat, everything's just starting to kind of, all the fats that are in there are starting to redistribute throughout the products themselves. And it's also finishing the cook of the rice. So again, whenever you add the shrimp, your rice is about 90% cooked. You kind of got the snap, crackle, pop, and you worked on the socarrat on the bottom. So at this point, the rest of the rice is going to cook. The proteins are going to properly rest. and you'll just get an overall better quality product.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So even though we're all starving right now, you just have to you have to wait, and you've not. This is when you have some sangria, and so I have my own pot of sangria now. Okay. All right. And then this looks beautiful. So parsley and lemons, right?
Yeah, so this is just a presentation piece, but make sure you and your guests squeeze a lemon.
Okay, so not just for looks, the lemon squeeze is really important.
Correct.
And I think parsley too.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love fresh parsley and everything. All right, this looks fantastic. Oh, very nice. Okay, who wouldn't be impressed with paella at home? So this is our paella kit that we have at Ultreia, and of course we have like all the add-ons, the tapas and sangrias and sherry, whatever you guys like. We can do these many different ways. This is our standard one, but again, if you are vegetarian and you like just all vegetables, or pescatarian, or a meat lover, we can do that too. And we hope you watch this video, and we have a great recipe, and we hope you enjoy the paella. Thank you so much.
Thank you.